What's up, YouTube? So today we're going to be talking about the black car again, and something I haven't hooked up yet in the Holley is the two-step. So when I go on the trans brake, I want to be able to adjust the two-step so it goes to a certain RPM before I launch. Right now, just kind of playing around with it on the street, seems to be off the trans brake, it'll go between 4 and 4,500 RPM, so that's a little aggressive. And plus with the two-step, it lets you kind of build boost a little easier, getting in the lights, things like that. Meanwhile, I'll show you on a Holley, you just can't hook up your 12-volt positive signal, which is what I'm using to trigger my trans brake. You can't just hook that into the computer because you will eventually damage it. So Holley has come up with this part number. Let me turn on my light. It's part number 554128, and it's called a trans brake input protection device. And what it does here is it keeps the flyback voltage from happening when the trans brake is released, which could damage the ECU. So what you do is, it's pretty straightforward. This is the device. You have 3 wires. You have a red, which goes to the 12-volt activation side. You have a blue, which goes to the ECU input, and a black, which goes to ground. So if you pull out your handy dandy Terminator X manual and you go and look at your available inputs, I'm gonna select input number 2, which is A3 on the ECU pin, but it's a white wire with a red stripe. So that's the wire I'm going to connect to the blue wire here. And then the red wire here is going to go to my 12 volt of my trans brake. It's going to split it off. So when I hit the button going to the trans brake, it's going to peel off and go to here, which will basically just keep that voltage from having a problem. And then black, I just hook to a ground, put a terminal on here and hook it to ground. Not a big deal. So I just want to show you before you get started. You want to pull out any current tune that you have in the car, because there will be some things you have to do in the car or in the tune. So you get your handheld, you plug it in. I have a USB normally plugged in, but you plug it in, take your handheld, make sure you got your little card in here to store it. And what we're going to do, we're going to download from the computer to the handheld, and then take that file over to my laptop and then go in and manipulate the tune. So give me just a second, we'll do it. Okay, just that easy. We download the file to the card. You can see last time I'd updated mine was December of last year. So turn this off, take the card out, then we'll go over to the laptop. And here's the 2 tunes there. I'm gonna open this one. Okay, you're gonna go to your rev limiters. You'll see it's not activated. It's called rev limiter 1. We're gonna enable it. Spark for high, and then our RPM, let's put this at 3,600 for now. All right, so see, we're at 3,600 RPM. So that's our rev limiter. Now from there, we go to our pin map, and you'll notice here on inputs, we have an unassigned one here. So as I was telling you, we want to go to A3, which is this one. So what you just grab it, you drop it down here, and now A3 is going to be our rev limiter input. And now, because you saw the input said ground, we need to change it. So you go here under Spark, you go to Input, rev limiter 1, and we want to change this to 12 volt. So see how that is? Go to Spark, Input, rev limiter 1, which is A3, and make sure it's on 12 volts. Okay. Then we go back to our rev limiter here. That looks fine. Our input's plus 12. Go to the pin map. And right here, you'll notice this has an H for high, not a G for ground. So that's telling me that that input for A3 is my rev limiter, and it responds to a high signal, which is 12 volts. Now we have this all set up and ready. All I have to do now is save this. And now that that's saved, I will also save it as another file name, and I'll just put it on here as 07/06/2023 rev, I'll just say 2-step. So there we go. And that's all it is to it. Now we'll eject this, put it back in the car, download it to the computer, and we should be good to go. So an alternative way to the display, if you've got this little patch cable that plugs in, it's a USB on one side, the other side plugs into the Holley. You can do the same thing. You just go in here and link up to it like this. And once it's linked, you go to your spark, you set your spark up, like I said, 3600. And then you go over here to your pin map. You make sure you've dropped into A3. And again, it should say hi on there. And that should be all you need to do to make sure it's all good to go. Enable 3600. Okay. And there. All right. So we got all that set up. It's a little easier if you got that cable, just plug it in. You can also data log as you're driving around. It's not a bad cold start on E85, is it?